What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Triple Threat Talk. I'm your host, Connor Ryan. Today we have a very fantastic episode for you all. This is episode 12. Today's date would be December 13th, Friday the 13th. I didn't even realize. Oh my God, that's crazy. But I'm recording it on the 12th, episode 12, recording it on the 12th. Only 4 games to cover. We're going to just be talking about the NBA Cup games, as those have been the only games that have been going on for the last 2 days. But it'll be a very good episode because I was able to watch all 4 of these games. It will be a little bit faster, won't be as long, which I hope is okay with you all. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. But before we do, please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Please follow me on Spotify if you're listening to it there. Follow me on Twitter at Talkin' Triple. Follow me on Instagram at Talkin' Triple. Check out the blog, triplethreattalk.com. It's basically it. Let me know. Should I start up a TikTok? Let me know. What do you think? Yeah, let's get right into it. Unfortunately, no Celtics to talk about, but it is what it is. We got 4 great games to cover. 4 actually very entertaining games. So let's get right into it. Bucks defeated the Magic 114-109 in Milwaukee. Giannis led the way with 37 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 4 blocks. Damian Lillard is continuing his streak of very good games, 28 points, 9 assists. Sorry about that. And Bobby Portis with a solid 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Bucks had questions going into this one. They obviously didn't play well against the Celtics in clutch time, at least last Friday. And they also, I think they lost to Atlanta the game after the game before. And so they were looking to kind of get a more statement win against a better team under their belt. And that's what they were able to do. You know, the Magic have been a very surprising team so far this season, but also in a very, very good way, I'm saying. And a lot of that had to do with the play of Franz Wagner, who unfortunately was out of this contest due to a torn oblique. Really frustrating to see. Really unfortunate news for the Magic. He was going to be an all-star this season, in my opinion. But very soon, I know that they're going to be getting Paolo back, which I know will jumpstart them again. But for the Bucks, Giannis took over this game. I understand people will question Giannis's play style and kind of talk about, it isn't really that entertaining, depending on who you ask, obviously. Long story the thing is, they won. They won the game. There were times in the second and third quarter where the Magic had a little bit of spurts, a little bit of runs, but the Bucks maintain control, and if they want to stay in contention for a playoff spot, then that's what they're going to have to do. If they want to be a contender in the East, if they want to be a team that makes statement wins, then these are the performances you're going to have, especially from your 2 best players. Obviously, Chris Middleton is still getting back into the swing of things. Brook Lopez has taken a little bit of an offensive regression this season compared to previous ones. And that very much just has to do with age, and understandable. But if Giannis Antetokounmpo is playing for the Milwaukee Bucks, then they are very much in the running to win that game. So no really concerns for them there. I was concerned about how the Magic would come into this. I had predicted that the Bucks would win this game. I was correct. Did I expect it in this fashion? No, because I think a lot of that just came from, I made the predictions before Franz got injured. I think I still had the Bucks winning, but I think a lot of it just had to do with the defensive matchup where you could put a Bobby Portis or a Giannis on Franz and see how it worked. But this game showed that the Magic are a legitimate threat in the East. Jalen Suggs, 32 points, 9 rebounds, 4 steals. Anthony Black, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Goga had 12 points, 14 rebounds. Goga Bitadze has been the defensive anchor that the Magic have needed. They have very good on-ball guards with Jalen Suggs and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who plays very solid defense. Franz Wagner and Paolo continue that defensive mentality along with those 2 guards, but they needed the big man. Mo Wagner is an all-right defensive option. Jonathan Isaac doesn't have the size, or more so the build, to be that defensive guy. In the interior, he more has the speed and quickness to be like a stretch 4, defend the 3 kind of guy. Goga Bitadze brings that and is the difference maker. I'll talk about Goga in a little bit, more in depth in a little bit, but to have a scenario where if you were to tell Magic fans at the beginning of the season, hey, you are going to be in contention for the NBA Cup, and not only are you going to only lose to the Bucks by 5 in Milwaukee, you are going to do it without your two best players in Franz and Paolo. I understand moral victories aren't the same, obviously, as normal victories, but that would be a huge win, in my opinion. You got to take what you can get. And in this case, if you can take holding one of the hottest teams in the NBA to only a 5-point victory, then you take that. That is a huge win in that case. I do still think the Magic are going to be contenders. It's just, it just, over the next 2 weeks, is it going to be Suggs that really steps up into that all-star form? Is it going to be Batatse? Is it going to be KCP? Will he finally figure it out? Will it be Anthony Black off the bench? Jonathan Isaac? Will Cole Anthony find his rhythm? We don't really know yet who will be that guy, but it's going to have to come from somebody. And in this game, it was Jalen Suggs with the 32 points. He is very much becoming like a Derek White-esque player. I'd say a little bit more scrappy in terms of a defender, like not as, like very much more in your face of a defender, and also just true grit with like, it looked like he like almost like dislocated his finger and then popped it back in. Like he was like writhing in pain and then came back into the game and hit some big shots, made some big layups. His shooting from 3 wasn't great, but you know, not everybody is Steph Curry. Not everybody is prime Kyle Korver. So it is what it is. It was a very fun, entertaining game. Yeah, really good game. Really good game. Next matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder defeated the Dallas Mavericks 118-104. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way with 39 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. We've seen performances like this all year from Shai, and I understand OKC fans have him as the MVP. I don't know if he will win it, but it's performances like this that you can't just knock him out of the conversation right away. Led the team and the entire game in scoring by 20 plus points, or by 20 points exactly. Provides good rebounding, provides very good off-ball defense, and has the ability to shot create better than most, I'd say 99% of the league. Like Kyrie is maybe the only guy who I'd say has similar shot creating abilities in terms of that position in point guard. I know Luka has very good shot creating abilities, but I think it's more so just his pull-up game, I'd say, is a lot stronger than Shai. But in terms of like getting to a spot in the mid-range, using the pace, using the quickness that he has, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an incredibly difficult player to defend. And a lot of that is his pace, a lot of that is his balance, and also his size. Being 6'6", moving at that speed, moving at that ability, it makes it very hard for somebody to defend him. And it was no different in this game against the Mavericks. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, had 18.7 rebounds, 4 assists, and Isaiah Hartenstein with a nice double-double with 10 points, 13 rebounds. I saw a stat, and I think it was Isaiah Hartenstein during his entire tenure with like the Knicks, he had like 8 double-doubles. And so far this season alone, in the limited games that he's played with the Thunder, and I think the stat kind of came out a couple days ago, he had like 6 double-doubles. So Isaiah Hartenstein really has found a home in Oklahoma City. And the craziest thing is they're only going to get better because their at least third, arguably second best player is currently injured, probably until January. So the Thunder really do look like they are going to be the team coming out of the West. And they are just so scary because of their offensive versatility, but primarily because of their defensive impact. They have the lowest defensive rating in the NBA, first in the league. They also have a top 10 offense. I think they're 8th in offensive rating. They are one of 5 teams in the NBA with a top 10 offensive and defensive rating. The Celtics, the Cavs, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, and the Thunder. So if you're able to hold a Mavericks team who has been firing on all cylinders, just overall one of the better offensive teams in the league this season, to only 104 points, that is incredibly good. Luka only had 2 points in the first half. Being able to contain one of the best shot creators and shot makers in the NBA to 2 points in the first half is very good and gives your team a much better chance to win in so many more scenarios. For the Mavericks, Luka, as I said, had 2 points in the first half, but finished with 16 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Naji Marshall, who has continued to impress me, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Kyrie with 17 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists. And Klay Thompson had 19 points and 4 rebounds on 50% shooting from the field and 50% from three. I think he shot 7 of 14 from the field and 5 of 10 from three. My concern with the Mavericks at the beginning of the season was, would these acquisitions be enough? I think the Klay one has been a little bit rocky at times. He has shot the ball very well from time to time, but it hasn't been like, and this is kind of where my concern was, it hasn't been the Klay Thompson of 2017 or 2018 that many people were assuming, many Dallas fans were assuming they were going to get. This is Klay Thompson after multiple injuries, after being out for the entirety of the 21 season, and also just like out for majority of the COVID season as well. Klay Thompson has lost a step defensively. The shooting is still there, and I think that's the primary value that he brings to this team. But Naji Marshall has really stepped up and kind of been that anchor point in terms of very good defense and has the ability to shoot the ball at very high fashion and good efficiency. So, and that kind of takes the stress off of Klay in terms of needing to just put up buckets every night. Getting 20 points from Klay Thompson is no like easy feat. Getting 20 points from Klay Thompson is not nothing. It is a huge bonus to the team. But they aren't relying on him as much, which I would say is better for him. He is aging. He is on the older side compared to Luka. He's on the older side compared to Naji, on the older side compared to PJ Washington, who I would say PJ Washington and Naji have more of that role in regards to, hey, if we need the support, if we need more like long-term support, it's those guys that need to help. Klay, I would say more is the clutch guy, from the shooting clutch guy, like spot up shooting. But overall, like the main takeaway of this game was just Luka's poor performance from shooting wise. He does impact the game more than just shooting, no doubt about it. But this is where I kind of have my questions with Luka, and I get how good he is in regards to saying his shot making ability. But when his shot isn't going in, and when the defense is able to manipulate so many schemes into forcing him to take bad shots or forcing the ball out of his hands in general, then the stat sheet does look like this. 11 rebounds is nothing to scoff at. 14 points in the second half, very solid. But his usual 9-10 assists becomes 5 because his teammates weren't making shots. As much as assists is a very good stat to determine somebody as a playmaker, it also determines how much of support that you may have on the other for the rest of your team. We're going to talk about Trae Young in a little bit. He's had multiple 20-20 games this season, and that doesn't come easily because of just perfect playmaking. Sure, he throws a beautiful lob, no doubt about it, and he has multiple players who can do that, and same with Luka in this case. But when he runs into a defensive scheme like the Thunder, then this is what's going to happen. So, really good game. I know a lot of people were questioning about the Lou Dort kind of face guarding on Luka, and a lot of Mavs fans were like, oh, this is only the Celtics and the Thunder get this call. No, it's a face guard. He's not using two hands to push him away. He's using two hands as kind of just keeping him honest and keeping him there. It wasn't a foul. It was nowhere near a foul. Just simple as that. So, next matchup, the Hawks defeated the Knicks 108-100 in the Garden. Trae Young led the way with 22 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists. DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench, 24 points. Jalen Johnson with a very, very good game of 21 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. And then the 2 lob threats, as I mentioned, for Trae, Onyeka Okongwu, 12 points, 11 rebounds. Clint Capella, 11 points, 13 rebounds. The Hawks are proving more and more that they are a dangerous team in the East. Not just this season, but I think next season and moving forward, they are going to be a real threat. I talked about it in the last episode that they are going to be a team that you do not want to face down the line. And this is why. I think the Hawks might be this year's Pacers team in terms of this talent. We are finally seeing it on a national stage. We're going to recognize it. And these players are going to use the momentum of the NBA Cup to push them further and further. We saw it with the Magic and the Pacers last season. I think we're finally going to see it with the Hawks. Trae Young, a lot of people are questioning if this is Trae Young's final year. It might be, but Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, those are four guys who I trust to lead this team immensely. And they're four very good players. Unreal villain, great villain identity from Trae Young, especially rolling the dice on the Knicks logo at the end of the game. But I think Jalen Brunson put it best. If we didn't want him to do that, we should have beat them. Simple as that. Speaking of Jalen Brunson, the Knicks, Josh Hart, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Karl Anthony Towns, 19 points, 19 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. Mikal Bridges, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Jalen Brunson, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists. And OG Anunoby, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 3 blocks. I do love the moments where I know what I'm talking about from time to time. But as I said in last episode, the Knicks live and die by their starting five. I think all five of them played more than 35, 36 minutes, which is normal for a starting five. But then your sixth man and Deuce McBride played about like 14 minutes. Cat did foul out towards the end of the game, but only one guy above 20 points. And sure, Cat and Mikal were right there with 19. But when you rely on your starting five as much as you do, and you don't get that much production, or you don't really give your bench the chance to help with production, then this is what happens. If you don't have 30-point scorer and then a couple 20-plus guys, then that instantly kind of brings you down. If you have the 30-point scorer, couple 20-plus guys, and then 2 guys who are around that 20 range, that puts you pretty close to 100 already, and then you just need a couple buckets here and there from your role players and your supporting cast. When you're in a situation like this, where you only get one game and they come up short, especially in the Garden, the Mecca that is the Garden, then it's disappointing. Jalen Brunson didn't shoot that well. OG Anunoby didn't shoot that well. Cat played very well in the first half and died off in the second half, and a lot of that had to do with foul trouble. Mikal Bridges wasn't hitting his threes. Josh Hart was solid, but again, you can't be relying on Josh Hart to score you 30, and I know the Knicks weren't that wasn't the Knicks' game plan. But when you run into a Hawks team that has very good defenders in all levels, like Dyson Daniels being able to guard Jalen Brunson, Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella being able to guard Cat, Jalen Johnson being able to take that switch onto Cat, DeAndre Hunter being able to take the switches, that's when I feel like this team really runs into trouble, and that leads to my concerns with this team. But again, a very good game. Very good. And overall, this is like how I kind of talk about like mini rivalries. There are the clear rivalries in the NBA. Celtics Lakers, Celtics Knicks. You could say Lakers Clippers if you want, purely just because of LA versus LA. But like Pacers Bucks last year, I think is the perfect example of a mini rivalry. Trash talking between teams, just really good games whenever they play against each other, and then even leads into a playoff series. The Knicks and the Hawks are a mini rivalry, and it's games like this that really give that case more fuel and just say, you want a really good game? Here are the Knicks and the Hawks, and generally speaking, they're gonna have some product that leads to very, very good play. So, very entertaining game, and the Hawks are going to Vegas. So, yeah. Final game on the slate, Rockets defeated the Warriors 91-90. I was not able to catch the back end, and by back end, I mean like the last 4 or 5 minutes of this game, because I actually went to bed. I was pretty tired, but I did watch all the highlights, and I think I went to bed when it was 89-82 with about 3 minutes remaining. I was just checking the game on Reel. By the way, download the Reel app. Add me at C Ryan. Shameless plug right there. And then the Rockets stormed all the way back. The Rockets ended their 15-game losing streak against the Warriors. I think this dated back all the way to 2019, which is pretty crazy. Alperen Şengün, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Jalen Green, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Amen Thompson, 10.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. The Rockets are, if the Thunder are clearly the best defense in the NBA, but the Rockets are number 2. And I think a lot of the Rockets defense more so has to do with coaching from Ime Udoka. Turning Alperen Şengün into a elite level interior defensive player, Fred VanVleet into a very good defensive player, making Jalen Green look pretty solid on defense. But then you have players like Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason. Those 4 guys are kind of your backbone on the defense. They held the Warriors to 38 points in the first half. Like I think it's the lowest first half the Warriors have had in scoring since like 2022. So this isn't like a coincidental defense. This is a legit defense. But then the other side of it is they are the perfect mid-2000s team. Unreal defense, just very little offense to go with it. When Alperen Şengün is like catching the ball in the post and is able to turn and face up, then he's very effective. But if Fred VanVleet isn't making his shots, if Jalen Green isn't making his shots, then they just become it almost seems like they don't really have like a source of offense. So I think that's where this team gets pretty concerning and pretty interesting. I tweeted something last night and I said the Fred VanVleet's 3-pointer is the equivalent of Russell Wilson's long ball. It is one of the prettiest shots, one of the prettiest throws you can see in the NFL/NBA, but it isn't always going to go in, but it always looks like it's going to work. And I mean, that's just like Fred being not the tallest of players and just having to load as much as he can, but it's a beautiful shot. But that was like my concern with the Rockets. They aren't a high volume 3-point shooting team like the Celtics or the Warriors, even in certain cases. But there are times where they don't really have a lot of shot creation ability. And when it's not working, then a lot of their play sets don't really run that effectively on the offensive end. So if I were to nitpick at all, it would just be the Rockets offense needs a lot of help. And I think that's where trading for somebody like a Jimmy Butler would work. I know the Rockets just said that they are planning on being out on Jimmy, but still, you never know. So for the Warriors, Steph Curry led the way, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Jonathan Kuminga, 20.7 rebounds. Buddy Hield with a very solid game, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks. With the Warriors, very good defensively, solid offensively, but when Brandon Podziemski isn't hitting shots, when Draymond Green isn't able to do his dribble handoff, DHO, illegal screens, when Andrew Wiggins is out, then that kind of takes away from their overall offense. They do need another player, a la Jimmy Butler, to come in and say like, hey, I can take some of the weight off of Steph. And this is a perfect example. Sure, you could say Steph needs to hit the shots, which sure, he does. But if you have another scorer in there, you win this game pretty handedly. No questions asked. I know the officiating at the end was very bad. I know Steve Kerr had a big rant about it in the post-game interview. But a game is just going to be called differently in this scenario. This is not a stereotypical regular season game. This is not something where you can just say like, oh, like that was just bad officiating in a normal game. This is not a normal game. This is the NBA Cup we're talking about. You got to respect the cup, and fouls are going to go one way, fouls are going to go another way. So it is what it is. Just another very good game. I know I've said that about all 4 games, but they were. If you watched them, you know what I'm talking about. Real quick before we get into actually, no, we'll do Instagram question first, and then we'll finish it up with my predictions for the rest of the NBA Cup. So I made my predictions last week. I think I had Bucks winning, and I had the Knicks winning, and then I had Rockets, Thunder. So 3 of my 4 were right, which pretty solid. Can't complain. But I did have Knicks beating Bucks. So Doesn't really matter. Only one Instagram question today from my good friend Caleb. Caleb has been asking me questions that weren't really fit for the pod, but now he has a good one. What's the best success story in the NBA in the last 5 years? I'm going to give you two. One of them will be more superstar related. The other one will be more non-superstar related. Superstar related, it's pretty tough not to say Giannis Antetokounmpo. Came from Greece, knew very little English when he got here. Came by himself as an 18-year-old Greek and has taken the league by storm, especially in the last 6-7 years. And I know you said 5, but I feel like with superstars, you need a little bit more time, and has helped propel not only his career, but his family. He truly is living the American dream. And it's very special to see a player of that caliber have that uprising. I always think of the edit where it starts with him as an 8th grader helping out a Greek team or a team that he wasn't old enough to play on or didn't make, and he's just helping clean the court, giving tips and stuff, and trying to just pick as much information from people's brain as much as possible. And to win 2 MVPs, to win a championship in Milwaukee, to be the finals MVP, to win a defensive player of the year, to have all the all-star appearances, all the all-NBA appearances, to be considered one of the 4 greatest power forwards of all time by many, that is just incredible to see and just a very cool story. For the last 5 years, in terms of somebody that maybe doesn't get as much credit, I brought him up earlier in this Episode, but Goga Bitadze for the Orlando Magic. The reason I say this is because there was a picture after, I think it was after, or might have been pre-draft for the 19 draft, where Zion was the number 1 pick. And on one side, you see about 30 to 40 reporters all sitting around Zion, and no reporter sitting in front of Goga. And somebody took a picture, and it's Goga just looking over at Zion, and just looking, just noticing all the reporters. And Draymond Green was like, I would get this picture framed. Dwayne Wade was like, fuel the fire. And that's what he's done. Over the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been as notable. I don't think he was traded. So he played for them last year in 23-24 and was originally drafted by Indiana. But now he's playing for the Magic, and he has really blossomed. He has a role on a team that I would say is able to utilize him a lot more. Very much a defensive. His strength is his defense, but now he almost has more playmaking abilities. He has a lot more success on the ball, and overall is just somebody who is really taking advantage of the situation. And just having that motivation. And I understand there are there's some other examples that you can use where it's you could say Nikola Jokic being drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. You could say Jimmy Butler with his upbringing. You could say Marcus Smart with the loss of his brother. But when you talk about somebody who was already who was in the NBA and was literally disrespected next to the number 1 overall pick, Goga Bitadze was a lottery pick. It wasn't like he was 30th pick or a late second rounder. He was a lottery pick drafted by the Pacers and got no attention because he was next to Zion. So shout out Goga. I saw a stat today, and I know this has to do with Zion just playing not as many games, but in every major stat, Goga Bitadze is doing better than Zion. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, just overall games played. So, and the best ability is availability. And what is Goga doing? Being available for a thriving Magic team who are, without their 2 best players, a thriving verge of superstar in Paolo Banchero and a perennial all-star in Franz Wagner, and he is supplying defensive help and also just a low post presence. So shout out Goga. All right, as I said, quicker episode today, but we are going to get into the final section of it, which is my NBA Cup semifinals and finals predictions with the teams that are currently here. First matchup out of the East between the Hawks and the Bucks. I do think the Hawks have out of the teams in the East, I think the Hawks do give some of the better matchups against these upper echelon teams. Very good defense, high power scoring ability when they're faced off against lackadaisical defenses. But I just think the Bucks' star power is going to be a little bit too much for the Hawks. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to just take control because he's going to be too quick for a Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu, but he's also going to be too big against a Jalen Johnson. So it'd be interesting to see who the matchup on Giannis will be. And the other matchup that I'm interested to see is Trae Young versus Damian Lillard. I know when Milwaukee has the ball, it most likely will be Dyson Daniels who is guarding Damian Lillard. And then when Atlanta has the ball, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Gary Trent Jr. guarding Trae. So how will those matchups, kind of balance out with one another? Will there ever be a time where it's Dame versus Trae Young one-on-one? I don't think so, but I would take the Bucks to win, but depending on the spread, I would almost take the Hawks to cover. So pretty interesting matchup there. But I think the Bucks will win that one. And then for the Thunder versus the Rockets, I think it's the Thunder. I mean, I really can't see where the Thunder are going to lose. I think they are the team to beat in the West. They are also, as I said, they are without Chet. They're just too good of a team. They're just one of the they're the most sound defense I have seen in a very long time. In terms of defensive rating differential and compared to league average to where their defensive rating is right now, they have the third best defense in NBA history. The only two better ones are the Bill Russell-led Celtic defenses. That is crazy. Other defenses in that list is like the 07-08 Celtics. I'm sure there's another Celtics team on that list. I think 95-96 Bulls is on that list. We are talking about a historical defense with one of the best shot creators and one of the best players in this generation in SGA, with such a good supporting cast built around him. This is, not only do I have the Thunder winning against the Rockets, I have them winning the entire NBA Cup. I don't see how they lose unless they run into a injury situation in the next two games, but I got the Thunder beating the Rockets, and then I guess I'll talk about this matchup. Bucks versus Thunder. I think the Thunder are going to win because being able to have that pesterness of a defense is going to cause issues for the Bucks. They're almost going to approach it as like, Giannis, if you want, score 50. No problem. We are going to allow that to happen. Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be their post threat for him. That is not a problem. They're going to put like a smaller guy on Brook Lopez if he's going to stay outside the perimeter. If not, then they'll just switch. The perimeter guy will go on to Giannis, and then they're going to force him to take mid-range shots. And then if Brook Lopez goes on the low post, Isaiah Hartenstein will take that. But it is the versatility and the offense ability and the balance from the Thunder that I think are really going to propel them over the Bucks. So I think the Thunder will win the NBA Cup, and I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win NBA Cup MVP. Thank you all for listening to another episode. I'm sorry it was so short. It's purely because of just how many games there were this week. And we also welcomed a new member to the Ryan family. This is going to be pretty interesting, but back here, it's pretty tough to see, but we got Remy right there. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's a little Scotty Terrier, but yeah, she's been great so far. So, but yeah, hope you all have a great day. I will see you next Tuesday for episode 13 of Triple Threat Talk. And today's player will be Celtic legend, Leon Powe. See you all in the next episode. Peace.